if I can't do this thing, I've been calling myself and thinking of myself as a musician. When I lose this, who am I?
And I have a session that is very strange in our field. It's a twisted side-lying Sims position session. So I want to do that. And normally that would be the whole session. But since we have 90 minutes instead of 60, we all live inside a body, and every body comes with challenges. This is episode 3 of The Challenge of Being You. I'm David Weintraub, the owner of Bodyworks DW. This is Byron Isaacs, an amazing musician and bass player for the Lumineers, although you've got multiple other hats that are, I think, equally as cool as that.
I mean, mostly musical.
Yeah.
But getting back to what we were just talking about, the identity part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you have something that's actually taking away your ability to do the thing that you do,
Yeah.
that has been your channel for connecting with other people, for giving to other people, for being in service to the world, when your ability to do that is being taken away from you, it
Mm-hmm.
really shakes your sense of identity. You
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
like, well, if I can't do this thing, I've been calling myself and thinking of myself as a musician for all these years. I've been using music to pour my energy into the world, and I'm losing the ability to do that. I haven't lost it entirely. On a good day, I feel like I'm struggling through it, and on a bad day, I just feel overwhelmed. And throughout the whole thing, I'm like, when I lose this, who am I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who
right.
am I going to be? What good am I going to be? Like, what good is, I think about this for myself, it's, and I realize here's the double standard, right? Any living being I will cherish, just for the sake that, there they are, like they're a being who needs love and shelter and food and water and these things. When I think of myself, I immediately think of myself as becoming a burden when I can no longer contribute. What am I going to be, a blob? Am I just going to be a blob that just needs to eat and is expensive and has to still have health care provided for and shelter provided for and somebody doing things for me because I can't do them anymore? It's like I'm going to be a burden. I'm going to be and no longer able to pour energy, no longer able to give. Woo! When that starts to crush down, it affects my whole physicality. It makes it worse. Anything I can do to keep myself from that morbid attention on myself and my identity, is identity even real? Does our sense of identity help us really most of the time?
My life and business coach, a wonderful woman I've trained with and then have kept on as my coach ever since I became a coach as well, Alice Petzold. Hi, Alice. You're amazing. She always reminds me that at the end of the day, reality is reality, and then you choose how you interpret it. And, it's or as her mentor and our mentor will say sometimes, bad rocks fall on good people. Christopher McAuliffe, and that is, all right, circling back to the exposure to, the meaning of life and the fact that it ends early in life. You and I both lost our fathers young.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, and then I lost 2 of my best friends in my one of them in my early 20s and one of them in my 30s. Totally accidental, totally weird. And there was a point in my life where I thought that gave me some sort of get out of jail free card for future trauma, right? I had paid my dues, and I shouldn't get any more, and that why am I just getting dumped on by the universe all the time, right? And it's which doesn't count for anything and doesn't help you deal with anything either, because the truth is, like, bad rocks fall on good people. Like, there is just a thing of like the total randomness of this, and coldness of the danger of this universe in which you get outside of the atmosphere and you're toast. You know, like, that's the nature of the entire universe, is like one giant battle against gravity for everything. We're all just competing over resources. Wow, I'm getting real dark today. And yet, with all of that being true, like, how you choose to interpret that, whether you choose to believe in some, you know, guy with a beard and white with the clouds and harps and wings, or whatever, like, those are all just stories we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about the fact that, like, you know, we all deal with the exact same challenge, which is, here we are in a live organism that, you know, in and of itself is a crazy construct of millions of cells, of organisms that all coexist and try to talk to each other, hopefully reasonably well, and not all the time with your MS, right? Like, and right?
It's true. Have you ever stopped to imagine, like your consciousness actually being just one of the little cells in this body?
Yes, I have.
And just like running around, and like how short its little life is, and like how like horrific the battles that are going on inside are, and like, you know, it's like it's intense. It's like, why is our consciousness attached to this like bag of this like writhing bag of like you know, like of competing organisms? Like,
well, yeah, I think about the body and the cells sometimes as basically New York City, right?
Right.
It's a whole bunch of people with different agendas, with different goals, that are all trying to sort of coexist. They don't always get along. It's very hard to organize the whole thing. The job of New York City mayor is the worst job in the world, because you'll never ever make enough people happy to not just have everybody hate you.
And basically your mind is the mayor.
And your mind is the mayor.
Trying to make it all work.
Right. You know, and the truth is, and here, fun fact, or not so fun fact, maybe terrifying fact to all of you, is that we're just continually, all of those cells just continually die and get reborn, and you have to replace them all the time.
Yeah.
And it isn't just your skin cells, it's like literally everything. Oh, here's a fun fact. You all, oh God, I'm really getting dark today. We'll see how much of this Harry keeps in the video. You all have cancer. Every single one of us has cancer cells forming at all times. And the only reason you don't have like real cancer that kills you is that your body's immune system just continually looks around and shoots them and kills them, right? And as long as it can do that in enough time to not let it take hold, anchor itself, and metastasize, then you're fine, right? But it's a resource problem. But that's the truth, right? Like, it's just, you know, we think of everything as this very black and white thing, and it's just this constantly like tumultuous, weird thing happening inside and also outside, but you know, and thus the old Greek saying, as above, so below, right? Like, your body is basically like New York City. Takeaway. Anyway, oy vey. Something else. I've started spitting out my dad's Yiddish expressions from when I was a child in my 40s. I have no idea why, but oy vey, oy gewalt. They've all just started floating out of me.
Those come out very naturally when you get in your 40s and 50s, when every time you try to get up or into a chair.
Yeah, right. You know? Oy vey.
Oi!
Yeah.
Oy gewalt.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just natural. Like, I don't know.
All right. You know what? I'm going to try to salvage this as something valuable. So you just mentioned getting up in and out of a chair.
Yeah.
I actually have a teaching tool around this for everybody watching and for you. There is actually an efficient way to get up and out of a chair, and a bad way, right?
Okay.
And the bad way is to come from way back here and try and throw yourself up. The good way is to put your butt all the way back in the chair. Bring your feet as close to the chair as you can. Fold at your hip sockets until your weight is in your feet, and then do a squat press. Right? And that, it takes it all out of your back, and you can just not use your spine. It's all legs.
Well, that looks so easy when you do it.
It took me years to master.
All right,
let's try this.
So you're saying butt
so
all the way back.
bring your feet all the way back. Yep.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. And now try to fold at the hip sockets until you really can feel the weight in your feet, and then press up. Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Now to undo that, you basically do the opposite. You fold into the hip sockets, knees, ankles until your butt touches the chair, and then you unfold.
I wonder if I'm able actually to, I didn't go far enough forward.
Yep.
This is interesting. Oh, my chair moved back. Hold on. Okay, so we go up like that. I think I threw myself forward a little too much. So as coming down.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to fall back in the chair, but the ultimate inefficiency is to keep going down until you're actually on the chair and then unfold.
That is a little bit of a challenge. That's something
Yeah.
I'll have to practice.
Yeah, and actually I've got some more practice ideas, homework ideas for you and I right now.
I've not been good about my homework,
I
David.
know. No, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I intuited this morning that you would arrive saying that because you did last time. And so
Yeah.
instead of having the homework be at the end, I actually want to front load the homework now.
Oh, joy.
Right. So
Okay.
we're going to do a little stretching routine together that you can maybe try to do 5 minutes in the morning.
Okay.
And I'm doing it for me as much as you, because this is, my psoriatic arthritis makes sleep terrible and waking up the worst that I feel, not the restorative best that I feel.
Waking up sucks now.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I wake up feeling way worse than when I went to bed.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I therefore subconsciously half the time avoid going to sleep as long as I can.
I do too.
Which then doesn't make for even better or worse sleep or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's do 2 basic movements, and given your left leg balance issues, let me know if either one of them needs something to hold on to.
Okay.
But we're going to move the chairs out of the way here. So the first exercise I want to try is we're going to do 2 different Qigong exercises. Okay. Whether you believe in Qi energy or not, these just feel good. So.
Okay.
First one's called the bear, and it's basically like a morning wake up thing where you're gonna breathe in and lean all the way back, and then you're just gonna breathe out and try to squat and touch the floor wherever you get to.
All right, that's gonna be hard. Okay,
Yeah,
so how do you start?
Good. We're just gonna do a bunch of those.
Oh, okay.
Good. And that's just to get blood flowing in the body, get the joints moving a little bit,
Yeah.
And the second one is also the same. It's just a little bit different. You're going to stand a little wide.
Okay.
And what the goal is to swing your arms, but you want to have that come from your feet, knees, and hips, not from your arms. So I'll show you first. You're going to twist your hips to load up. And then the idea here is just that your arms are totally loose and they hopefully swing enough. You could generate enough movement in the legs to swing and slap yourself. And the real goal here is to just try to get the arm muscles as noodly loose as possible. And you're getting some nice hip rotation and stretching, a little bit of knee rotation and stretching, some spinal twisting happening here. It's a really nice shoulder thing. That left arm is even starting to slap the back. Nice.
Yeah, it might finally be loosening up a little bit. funny. It's just like, it is definitely like being held by whatever the nerve girdle is doing.
Yeah, and
know,
that probably will be a frustrating limitation at first, but may slowly open up.
That'd be great. Love that.
And the reason I thought about, and let's sit back down.
Okay.
The reason I thought about wanting to start with this today is that, especially with your lifestyle and the MS, the sessions we do are only going to have impact if they teach you how to do stuff like this on a daily basis.
Right.
If we just do the sessions, maybe we can get rid of some of the stuck stuff in your shoulder enough to get you triaged out of like the worst of it. But, we need you to, the minimum dosage is you're on a downward spiral, whatever input we need to do to lift that back up to as close to flatline as we can is the minimum dosage, right? And then if you add more, maybe there's a point where it increases or not, hard to say.
Right.
There are cases of that. There's this famous case of this guy who started running in his mid-90s and ran his first marathon at 102. So there is a case that you can, with more than just the minimum dosage, actually like change the spiral into an upward curve to some degree. Now, who knows what else will take him out at some point, but I'm sure that he probably feels a lot better at 98 than he did at 94.
Probably so.
So
must. I can't imagine feeling good enough that I'd want to go run for 26 miles.
Oh, well, that's a whole other can of worms, because I'm not sure I even condone that for the human body.
Right. Yeah, I'm not running for anything right now. That's not happening. Yeah. That's
true. Although we got to get you walking more, I think.
Yeah.
We got to get you walking more. And I think, and we'll get into it. One hack strategy is that the thing that you're doing that might feel hard, sometimes the way to get it to feel easier is to do something completely different, right? And so this swinging, twisting thing we're doing isn't really any of the motions that it's a super exaggerated set of motions that you need to walk or run, but it gets blood flow into all the same joints in a way that will improve your straightforward motion, even though it's the opposite of straightforward.
Okay.
And so sometimes, in order to get things doing, you hack it from the side, you come at it obliquely, I'll tell a story before we get you set up. I think I've told you this, but it's a fun story. So we've talked a little bit about brain plasticity, right? Especially given that your MS attacks the nervous system. And there's a very famous study, Pat Martino, you've heard that story.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So there's this very famous jazz guitar player in the, sort of started out in the 70s, but is he still around? I don't know.
I think he might have finally passed, but I think he was definitely playing in the 60s.
Right, okay.
Maybe even 50s. I can't look it up, but yeah.
Considered one of the peak top people in the field as a jazz guitarist, had a stroke in, I want to say, the mid to late 90s.
Was it that late?
I think it was that late. Could have been late 80s.
I think his first one was before that.
Okay.
He went through
two,
twice.
Right.
Yeah.
So he lost his ability to play guitar, which, as you can imagine, and as we're talking about, is a devastating and terrifying thing, given that that was his whole life's work and identity. And he's bummed about it, and he's trying and nothing's happening. And then the way that they figured out how to come at this and solve it, which they didn't realize until it happened, was that one of his students was visiting him in the hospital and just trying to cheer him up, and would be like, hey, this is what I'm working on, right? And he'd play a little bit. And Pat's teaching brain, and so there's a performance brain, there's like, just to preface this, like everything that you do gets stored in multiple places in your brain. It's not just one thing. It's mapped to different layers and areas, right?
And I think that they didn't really even know that until
Pat
Martino had this,
Before Pat Martino, all neurologists assumed that nerve damage was irreparable, right? That you had no options, right? So he loses his ability to play. They didn't know it at the time, but what he lost was his performance file set. And I mean that by the nerves were damaged. So it's like, it's not just the files, it's like the hard drive got toasted.
Yeah.
And his student comes in, shows him what he's working on, and Pat Martino's teaching brain, and he had a kind of rep as being kind of a hard-ass teacher, was like, that sucks. Here, give me that. Let me show you. And he starts teaching him. And they're both like, wait, you just played guitar, right?
Right.
And they were like, oh. And so he came at relearning guitar obliquely. Instead of trying to restore the performance files, what he did was hacked through the teacher files that were still there and really literally retaught himself to play like himself by listening to his own records and learning how to play like him again.
And learning how to teach
and
his style of playing.
Right, exactly.
And
And I'm sure it along the way, it probably evolved slightly, who knows, but that actually totally changed neurologists' understanding of the brain and the possibilities. Like, he's studied by neurologists, this whole case.
I hear that he is more famous among neurologists than he even is in the jazz world.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the day.
And he did it twice. He had a second massive stroke.
Yeah.
And went through the whole procedure again.
Which is crazy, and awesome at the same time. There's a part of that like, is valuable to anybody, where it's just like, if you can't go at it this way, you gotta go at it around and see if you can chip away at it from a different angle. And then maybe that actually makes this available again.
Right, yeah.
And then, the other side of that, just from a purely like shameless promotion, is that my methodology is that if I can't figure out what's going to help you, I'm going to keep doing that, coming at it obliquely, trying different things, until I find the thing that actually works. And that might be very different from client to client, depending on what the issue is or what's going on in their lifestyle or their brain. And coming all the way back around in this conversation, one sort of overarching concept I try to employ is that I really hate having to tell people you can't do the thing that you love right now, right? Like, because that sometimes is necessary. Like, case in point, I had this really great client friend who had all this horrible neck pain. And I finally just determined that a good giant piece of the chunk of it was 2 hours in bed, propped up with your book, reading like this before bed. And I basically said, you can't read anymore. But I love reading books. Well, then get some sort of stand that holds it like this, read in a different angle, read like this, do whatever you need to do. But if you can't, I need you to stop doing this. And, and then eventually maybe you can have some of that back, but not 2 hours of it. And that, and I always try not to come from, you need to do that right away. Let's test, see if we don't have to do that. Every once in a while I have to tell a client, you have to stop exercising. You're just continually aggravating the problem over and over. Take a break for 2 weeks and then start.
Especially the bodybuilders. I know you've had a few bodybuilders, and like that, they destroy their bodies doing that. Yeah. Their muscles are just getting torn and having to rebuild, all that rebuilding.
Well, and there's a methodology there. That is literally what they're doing, and that has an advantage of building and a disadvantage of if you have more input of stress and breakdown of the tissue, then your body has the opportunity to heal back better, stronger, more aligned. Eventually that leads to an injury, And then you're sidelined. And if you keep trying to pump iron, run a marathon, do Pilates, do yoga through an injury, all you're doing is piling on more compensations and more problems. And then even if the problem stops, it crops up somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and then somewhere else. And so if we can get at that without having you have to stop the activity, then sure, let's do that. That's obviously the ideal, but sometimes we can't. Anyway, what's your takeaway out of all that?
My takeaway, well, I guess the main thing is to listen to your advice.
Uh-oh.
And be patient.
Be patient, yeah.
You know, that specific thing and working my way back up, you know, I don't know how much of working my way back up to anything particularly is going to happen. You know, it's like really, this is more just trying to turn a decline into a plateau, you know, which if you invert that, looks like it's going up. You just twist the graph. But you know, I think there are plenty of parallels there. You know, I think I'm still as in danger as anyone of overdoing something. You know, it may not be the muscles; it might be the nervous system that gets overworked, or you know, who knows? Like, but I think that kind of approach is applicable to almost anything. So that's my takeaway.
I got one more corollary for you with my stepfather. My stepfather was an avid cyclist his whole life, and he's been all 7 continents. He's a world traveler. He's bicycled all through the UK and all sorts of other places, but he never did anything else. Never stretched, never worked out, never did anything, right? And I used to say to him, like, look, if the game were all just about the heart and lungs, you'd live to 500.
Right.
But now we need to cross-train a little bit and do some different things because your whole system's unbalanced from this one activity. And it's making your other normal activities, now that you've had this decline, a lot harder, right? And so he just wants to ride bikes again, which we actually got him to be able to do from time to time.
That's awesome.
But you're similar, and that there's great things about it. And we're all similar in certain ways, but you played an instrument as your thing forever, right? And and it's like now, you know, as the voice of, you know, coach, you got to cross train. you got to come at this differently. Otherwise, that thing that you love to do will continue to decline because that's the only physical input you're putting into the system.
I'm down.
So
if you can think of something.
Well, what we did before is a really good start. You know, even if you just did that for a minute or two every morning, no, you're not going to feel like amazing a week from now, but the cumulative layering effect might really mean something months from now. You know, and this is another thing, like I could give you hours of homework. Would you do it? No, none of us will. No. It's very hard to build hours and hours of a new habit. So I'd rather if you just did that and committed to it, even if I have to like call you on the phone every day or get your wife to, you know, go in on me with like whip cracking a little bit or drill sergeanting, then that might be a good start, you know, because if you can get that down, then you can layer on it. Before we dive into that, like my analysis, let's actually hear, how are you feeling? What are you noticing?
Today, not so hot. There are probably many reasons for that, but the last 3 days I spent most of the time sitting, working at a computer, trying to make a track that was dropped in my lap at the last minute and was needed immediately. And so, and so that was both stressful and had me sitting down all day. Now, what that meant, I wasn't out walking as much, which is good and bad in some ways. I wasn't stressing the heck out of my shoulder by using a cane a lot. But what's interesting is I'm really feeling the knots and everything in that neck and shoulder now after a couple of days of not using it much. I think it's like maybe it's loosening up to a point to where I can really feel it.
Oh, yes.
Instead of it just being like a solid block of, anyway, before that went down, I went for a nice, long for me, 8,500 steps without the cane. I was carrying the cane.
Oh man, high five on that.
Yeah, and just all through my neighborhood, and didn't have any place to be, didn't have an agenda. So, I was walking. I definitely felt how my spine liked that. Everything lined up so much better. On the way here today, though, like with the crowded streets and people like barreling toward me, looking at their phones, I'm just like, you're going to knock me down. A cyclist going the wrong way on a one-way, almost taking me out when I was trying to cross the street. All the stressful things that happen, and just the throngs and up and down subway steps, and the whole thing. Like I felt a lot of the sort of the stuff that you would help relax that had remained. Like I realized a lot of that stuff lasted throughout the week, even with all the sitting. But I started to feel a lot of it clenching back up just on the way here. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's been an odd week, of good things and bad things, and here I am today, just not at my best, but not at my worst.
Totally. Well, and I like that, like that would be also an ideal thing to add in, is just like a challenge of non-cane steps. Even 8,500 is awesome, but you don't necessarily need to go after that every day either. Even if it was 1,000 steps that way would be, that's part of just doing your reps. Just so you all know how strange my brain can be on how to find solutions for problems, I am imagining building you some sort of weird porcupine outfit that you could walk around New York in, where nobody would come near you because they would get spiked. Or like those spikes you see on the sides of truck wheels, where you're like, I'm not driving anywhere near that. Or like an actual like blind cane that had like spikes on it or something. I don't know.
That's funny.
But we need you to be more dangerous.
Well, I've always been saying this, but
anyway, that's probably not how we're going to solve this, but it's a fun idea.
You got my mind racing.
Yeah, right. Like, strapped on 2x4, or something. Everybody's like, oh, here he comes. Get out of the way. All right. Sorry. So let's see. I really am gonna do the thing that I've been envisioning since we worked last time. So just so you all know, like in the last couple of sessions I've worked on Byron with, I keep a mental catalog of places where I'm like, that's just not moving yet, right? Like I've given it a fair shot already, and it's still just, right? And those things don't just go away if I just hit them as hard as I can. In fact, sometimes that will just make them defend harder, right? And so sometimes the layering has to come around it until it's the last thing left to open, so to speak. But your mid-back and your low ribs ability to like inflate, deflate is still, even after 2 sessions of going after them, something where I'm like, okay, I have to like pull out the big guns for this. And I have a session that is very strange in our field. It's a twisted side-lying Sims position session that my Rolfer did on me several years ago, and I went, oh, and just started doing it all the time. And it's something that isn't the normal face down, face up, or even side lying. And it's ideal for trying to get those to move again. So I want to do that. And normally that would be the whole session. But since we have 90 minutes instead of 60, I also want to make sure I do your lower legs, which is a whole other session. So there's a session, most of my sessions are not that hyper focused. They're a little bit somewhere in the middle between full body and focus. You know, focusing too much on one area generally will just make it feel beat up and not really integrate with the rest of the body. And so I want to give it, you know, I'll take the problem area of the day and sort of joke that I'm putting it in the corner and asking it to think about it, what it's done, but also asking it to like re-relate to the rest of the classroom, you know, and so get along with the rest of society.
I hate it when teachers do that.
So I've never actually done this before. I've done each of these two things separately thousands of times, but I've never done a session where I do both. So we're gonna try it. And it'll be interesting. Hopefully your parts will still be attached when I'm done.
Oh my God. Woo, all right. I guess somebody's got to be the first.
Yep, exactly right. So let's get the chairs out, do the whole body reading four-sided. Your posture is starting to get there.
Really?
Oh yeah. If I AB'd from the first session to today and drew some lines on it, you'd be like, oh, wow.
That's great.
I'm looking at it going, oh, wow. All right. So here we have Byron standing front facing, and I was just saying to him, like, I really am starting to notice some big changes, and good big changes. So your left-right balance is becoming much closer to equal, right? Like the asymmetry that I noticed in session before we started session one, which was very, very noticeable, is there, but it's a lot less than it used to be. The head position is not nearly as far over to the right. The left shoulder is not nearly as lifted. The left leg isn't as asymmetrical to the right leg. Like there's a lot of good changes here. So I'm gonna come into frame and just point some things out that I notice still, right? And so kind of the main thing that I'm seeing now that I've been talking about a few times is these dropped arches, right? That still just stands out as something that if we can give you more spring in your step, quite literally, the arch is supposed to act like a shock absorber in a spring. Yours being flattened down already, you basically don't have that ability to absorb the shock as much. That's gonna help provide a lot more support to everything up top, right? And so there isn't if I'm working with any client through like more than 3 sessions, it's pretty rare that anybody wouldn't get a session from me that's mostly from the knee down, specifically to try to rebuild arches and or drop high arches, but just get the foot ankle moving more functionally and better for you. So that's definitely part of what we're gonna be up to today. You know, the left arm still has that feeling of pulling up and in, but that's not unusual, and it's still improved from last time. And the major thing that I really like is when we met you weeks ago, this knee really wouldn't open. That has locked in now. You've got that as your normal, that it's open, you know, and that is providing a lot more symmetry and support to the whole system. So I'm glad that that's basically sticking, you know, without us having to do much more work, which is excellent. Turn to the side. And so what I've been thinking about a lot with Byron is the fact that, like, even 2 sessions in, this whole area in his mid-back still is just holding on for dear life. And so, you know, I'm gonna do a session I've essentially never done before. It's a combination of 2 things that I've done tons and tons of times, but I've never actually done a session where I marry both of them. And so we're going to put you into a twisted side body Sims position to get at here in a different way. And the goal of doing it in a twist position is to separate the back extensors from the rotational muscles, right? And if you can get those to work differently, then this will have a fighting chance of actually working better again and allowing a little bit more of the ribs to be on top of the feet, eyes to the horizon. Yeah, there we go. Getting that more plumb line happening.
That does not feel natural when you
Right.
like
Now, the other thing about this is we're going to also, because we have 90 minutes, do almost my entire lower leg session on top of that, which is a combo I've never actually done before, but I'm excited to experiment with it. I'm not at all worried that he's not going to have a good reaction or I wouldn't do it. And I'm partly doing that for time compression because I know he's going back out on tour in like a week and a half and I'm only going to get to see him maybe one more time. Normally I would do those in 2 separate sessions, but today we're going to try to put them together. And basically the goals are lift the arches, open up the mid-back. And if we can do that, a lot of this other stuff will actually have the support under it to relax more. And so that's basically what we're going to be up to today. Cool. All right. That was that. So we're going to undrape this down to here and start working. So we've got Byron in a very interesting twisted Sims position, which I like a lot because I get to work on the back extensors while also having some ability to rotate further and further. And so it's going to help pull the back extensor muscles and separate them fascially from the rotational muscles. And I just find for back extensors, this actually just gets in a way that lying face down prone, just, I don't know, I find it works better for me. And just, Byron, keep me posted if this puts too much pressure on your neck in any way. Yeah, and these floating ribs of yours and lower thoracics are what I'm calling your problem children. Our goal today is to get these to start moving again. And for the LMTs watching this, yeah, you can absolutely do this face down, but they don't really have that much of a place to go. You can get them to move, but in this position, they've got ability to continue to rotate the torso further and further towards the table. And so you can get more movement out of them in this position, or they have the possibility of more movement in this position than they do face down. And I don't always start immediately out with this, but since your left arm is also the problem child, I'm going to have you start doing some gentle movements. So what I'd like you to just start with is thinking about lightly extending your fingers towards the floor and just gently stretching your left arm towards the floor, Byron. Good. And you can sort of stretch it towards the floor and then let go however much you want. There we go. Now these ribs are starting to feel the inflation and deflation of these guys. Yep, there you are. Little problem child. That was your iliocostalis, well, one of them anyway. One of my favorite undersung muscle sets.
Why is it undersung?
Because its bigger brother, the spinalis, everybody goes after that with good reason, but they all forget about this third lateral layer of the back extensors. I don't know, lots of people. Speaking of spinalis, that's spinalis. Also a problem child. All right, let's give you a break from that for a little bit.
One thing that's gotten much easier this week, by the way, you know, the stretch when you link your fingers behind your back and lift your arms straight behind you. I was almost unable to do that at all. It's significantly better.
That's excellent.
Which I think is larger the shoulder, but also might not do the back.
Yeah, both, for sure. Stretch that arm towards the floor. And this time I'm going to have you just very slowly, while keeping that extension, try to raise it towards that chair over there.
Which chair?
Any of them. Where Harry's sitting. Yeah, slow, slow, slow. That's nice. Keep reaching. That is way higher than I imagined you were capable of, honestly. That's great. Try to open the elbow. Can you open the elbow? Yes. And take a break. Nice work. All right, we're going to switch things up now and move down towards your hip. Normally I'd just hold the drape here myself, but since you're wearing underwear and we're on video, I'm going to allow this to be a little bit more open in the draping than normal, just so that people can see what we're trying to do here. I'm trying to get into the QL space and the obliques. That was a nice exhale. Think about dropping this hip from these ribs. Yes. Again, think about this hip dropping down towards your feet, away from these ribs. There it goes. Nice. Good. Ooh, okay. Hi there. Almost there.
There's the pain.
Mm-hmm. Almost through this side, doing great. This is opening up considerably. Just gonna do a couple extra lines here. Again, reach towards the floor if you can, lightly. Nice, we almost have that shoulder down to the bolster. How's your neck? Is it okay? Okay, just checking. guarantee it won't snap apart. All right, so now reaching down towards the floor and extending towards the chair again. Nice and slow. Oh yeah, that's nice. Good job. There we go. Amazing. You are like 15 degrees higher than you were. All right, drop. You did it. All right, I'm gonna ask you to come to hands and knees, nice and slow. We're just gonna, before we switch you over to the other side, we just wanna give you a break from that weird position. And I'm just gonna have you do a little cat-cow. You can do hands and knees or elbows and knees, it doesn't matter to me. And you're gonna come up cat into there and then go cow the other direction. Yep. And just try to notice that there should be a pretty noticeable difference between the two sides. Just go ahead and cat into there again. You should feel more open here for sure. And then come around the other way and come to neutral. And now I just want you to try and side bend. So you're gonna try to bring hip and shoulder together on one side, sort of like this. Yep. And then the opposite. Yep, there you go. Nice. And just feel the difference between the two sides. Go back and forth. This is just about kind of getting some blood flow back, moving around a little bit. And hopefully you do feel pretty different from side to side.
I do, but I always feel different.
Well, true. True.
But yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now we're going to come to the other side. So just find that place where you liked your hip the best. We're gonna take our time getting here.
Yeah. This has to come way
Now,
back, right?
yep, it's gonna be this leg behind the other leg.
Oh, this leg behind.
Yep,
Like this.
there you go.
Okay.
Yep, good.
Okay.
And then that arm off the side that way, this arm off the side this way. You need some...
I might need help.
Okay. I can see the trail of my tears here. Your tears. It's all red from all the work we did. Let's see. This feels like it's crunching into your neck a little bit. What does that feel like?
That?
Better, worse, same?
Not sure. We'll try it.
How about that?
Maybe worse.
All right. Don't like worse. All right. Well, yeah, we'll take it. That's a little bit less folds in there. I'll make a joke, Byron. Who do you hate most in the world? Because they might be stuck in there.
That could be.
Hate's a strong word. I don't think you and I are probably not all that capable of hate, but who's pissing you off enough?
Me.
God. I wonder if these little mics pick up all my neck cracks.
All your neck crack?
Yeah, I've been moving my head from side to side and popping things often. It's part of this phase of psoriatic arthritis medication I'm dealing with. What?
I wonder what's up in my hip joint.
Well, this is a tough position. As long as it's not super sharp. We're not going to keep you here that much longer.
What's interesting is whenever you're applying pressure, it's not a problem. But when it releases, you let go and I return to a normal position that like. So however it is that you're pushing me, it's pushing it away from where the hip is going.
And you mean the left hip?
This side, yeah. So when it was the other way, it was my right hip.
Right. Well, yeah, we've got the bottom leg into a pretty strong internal rotation in this position. Think of this hip dropping from here. Nice, there you go.
I'm spasming on my left side, sorry. Hold on.
Almost through this stuff. Good. Okay. Nice. Let that happen. The breath can go faster like that. Good. That's okay. I got you. That's it. There you go. That's it. Good. There. Nice. All right, let's take you out of this position now. Freaking out.
Freaking out, just gripping really hard, and also not letting my outside of my like spine and ribs like relax to help with this side of it. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I was just trying to relax it.
It's totally fine.
It would not. It was just like fighting.
Let's get you a little lower on the table. Maybe that's more comfortable. Here. I'm just going to give you this just to rest. Okay. Don't even think about what you need to do or where. We're going to shift from here. But for now, just breathe. I'll stop attacking you for a minute. I would go face up in this particular 60-minute sequence, but we're going to try and go after your lower leg now. So what I'm going to do is go get a face cradle, and we're going to turn you face down. Which I'm half saying for me to remember, because that's not normally how I do this. So let me just slide this into place here. Great. Now, the only thing I will say about this experiment I'm running of doing this and the thing we just did is that both of these are intense. So if you start just really not feeling it, let me know. I certainly wouldn't have done this in session 1. But I think at this point your brain has started to figure out that I'm not actually hurting you. You know, what's funny about recording all these videos is I look at myself as this wafy little stick figure kid that you met 30 years ago who played guitar. And then I look at myself on video, and it's not like I'm like Alex Hermosi or anything, but like I've got some biceps.
Oh yeah.
I definitely have some triceps. Of course.
You don't have a shoe gauge for guitar playing
Yeah.
anymore.
No. No, my shoulders are actually a lot broader than when I went to massage school. Of course, I have a very specialized set of super strong forearm muscles. Like my...
Fingers straight.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't have like that much grip strength, you know, because I don't do a lot of gripping. I mean, I do from playing guitar. But just like the pure ability to stabilize my wrist and fingers and the forearm muscles is, you know, I've had therapists work on my forearms and they're like, oh.
For sure. You could probably do the 2-finger push-ups.
I don't know about that, but maybe.
Maybe 5-finger push-ups.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I saw it. Actually hit the right foot too.
Yep.
Yeah, spasms are just your brain trying to throw signal through the nerve and hitting a wall, and then failing, you know. That fluttery spasm anyway.
I get these gripping spasms.
Yeah.
They're like a yawn.
Uh-huh.
It's like the whole side of my body will just be like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Do me a favor and gently try and curl your toes. Good, let them go. Ooh, yeah. And again. Let go. And again. There it is. Let go. And again. Let go. And again. Let go. And again. Let go. And again. Let go. I'm going after a muscle called adductor digiti minimi, which is a funny name. Go ahead and curl your toes again, and let go. And again, let go. And again, let go. And again, let go. That's it. All right, that's starting to look like a foot. Made it through one side. You've heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score, Byron? It's written by this PhD, something Vanderwall. He's actually a psychiatrist, but he talks about the real mind-body connection, which we think of as magic, but is actually very scientific. And, you know, I, in practice, think that there are areas of the body where certain kinds of emotions and feelings are stored.
Right.
And broadly thinking, I think of the calves and lower leg as where our toddler stuff is stored. It's where we learn to walk, where we take our first steps. Everybody finds this work down here super intense. The adductors in the upper thigh are more about like teenage angst. Yeah.
Apparently, also I lay in the room funny. And when I was born, I'm not sure which leg it was curved. Because crawling off to one side a little bit in the womb. And we're seeing like brand new baby pictures of me where you can see like my leg is curved. And so my mom and my siblings all like did these physical PT with me essentially, like to just straighten it out so that I wouldn't have to have a brace.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor said he's going to have a brace. And I'm like, is there any way to avoid it? I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to do it. But they actually did do it.
Well, that's
and
good.
Made games out of it. My siblings, very sweet, doing all these things. I did not have to have a brace, but I think it has, like, it's partly why like, one side of my body has always been longer than the other side.
Yeah.
And you can even see it in my face if you look carefully.
Uh-huh.
One side of my face is longer than the other side.
Yeah.
My features are more compressed on one side than the other. It's like my whole body is sort of more elongated on one side.
Hmm. You're reminding me, one of my mentors was a guy by the name of Ayman Mohandas, Dean of CUNY Medical College, and he was a former neonatal surgeon. And I remember at some point he challenged me to study up on neonatal development because it can have an impact. I still have yet to do that, but it is on my list. But one could make an argument that you got compressed blood flow to one side and it didn't develop as long or as fully as the other in, even a 3% way that isn't readily notable to anybody else, but, will have an impact going on and will have an impact over time. Although it sounds like you lucked out that your family did actually do the PT when you were a baby, so you weren't stuck with it forever. Sometimes stuff from way back then can really just have like far-reaching impacts. This is usually later in life, not toddler age, but usually in the sort of 7 to 12 range, we usually get our first big ankle sprain. And I always, when I'm teaching, I like to call ankle sprains the original sin, because it's sort of like the first real trauma injury that then gets compensated for and creates all sorts of patterns that, seemingly don't, you seem to get over it very quickly, and then you don't realize that you've now changed the course of your development, around the injury. I mean, it's much more noticeable and severe with something like a growth plate injury, like a bone break, where the end plate gets injured and that bone grows slower than the other, and you wind up with like a leg length difference or something like that.
Yeah. We found it.
Good old peroneus longus. Oh, that old peroneus longus. Such a stinker. Get around you. Yeah, this is what we found last time. It's kind of why I asked you whether this was the foot that you landed on the cymbal stand with, which you think it's the other one, but there is some bone chip even in here. Who knows?
Maybe it was.
Yeah, so some of this feels like drop foot, but there's also just this like structural limitation of this joint right now.
Yeah.
I only got one of your two ankle joints to move. The subtalar. There's the, so this, I've always wondered with you, only just started to experience this sort of like twitching as I start to get this open. I've always wondered why it wasn't there, because that's a usual symptom with drop foot, is that when you press in and do this, it starts shooting forward. All right, this is starting to move. You're also starting to get an arch, which I like a lot. Yeah, go take a look at that, Harry. All right. This is definitely starting to look more like a normal. It's not quite fully baked, but it's way improved. Now, just let me know if I'm actually getting nervy, like zappy feelings in here, because we don't want to do that. God, there's a part of me that really, I rarely say this, like, but this clickiness in here makes me want to see what an MRI or an X-ray says about what's going on in here.
Okay.
No rush on that. But, you know, it's like, is it the drop foot? Yes, partly, but is it also that like your ankle hinge joint is got some sort of functional, structural problem?
Well, I know that the flat foot thing in itself, it impedes.
That's starting to be good, yeah. All right, I want you to gently try to push away gently and try not to lift your ankle off the table. So just put, yes, there we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Where is that happening? It feels like it's over here. Am I right about that? That the click is out this side?
It feels like it's on that side, but it feels like it's pretty deep in there.
Yeah. All right. I would like you to try to pull your toes back and foot back towards your knee. Good. Come back. And again. And back, and again, and let go. Good. Yeah, it is definitely coming from lateral side. You made it. I got one last little something.
No more fun.
No more fun. Okay. Bring this out here, and we're going to bring this up and over and crossed over there. And you can just go limp and let me do all the work. We're going to see if we can capitalize on this twist we created at the beginning. All you have to do is breathe into my tapping finger in and out. Good. Good stretch or bad stretch?
I just want to wake up.
Well, it's all right. Yeah, that's the problem child right there. Good. Okay. I'll just be nice to this for a second. All right, sir. Yeah. This left arm looks night and day. I mean, it was like up here when we started, and now they're almost equal, which is fantastic. Now, you're sort of reverting a little bit to the pattern of the feet. I do like that they're parallel and not externally rotated, but I'm gonna challenge you to bring your feet a lot closer together than you're used to, which is gonna help you lift the arches and press into the balls of the big toe and the outside arch a little bit. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. So just think about, and then stand up, and then you're gonna think about this connection here, and oh yeah, we've got a real arch forming now, which is awesome.
That is great.
And yeah, that looks just so much more easy for you and stable.
It's funny,
just throughout the whole left side even as well.
That's good. It feels better.
Yeah.
Feels closer to normal. My heel lifts on my left side.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm not that concerned about it. So just stand up now and just try to feel that connection of the 4 points. And by 4 points, I mean the two balls of the toes, but also the inside and outside. So the other thing that's really great is that this was like super pronated, meaning like falling in a lot that way. And now it's really starting to like settle more into the middle.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's going to feel really wrong, but I want you to almost come in slightly pigeon-toed.
Okay.
Split the difference. That's a little much. Yeah. That is going to help form this for you. Split the difference a little more. That's a little too far. Yeah. Yeah. So, there we go. And you can just think of this line in the middle as not really being parallel, but being slightly like that.
Okay.
Which is fine. That's neutral. And then you can really just think of this, because like you're not even thinking about it and this already looks like that, but you can gently think about this holding you up and that the breath opens here in the back. Nice. There we go. And that, yes, exactly. The eyes come to the horizon. That is a much more stable, clean line for me than your, where you came in.
Okay.
Excellent. So turn that, well, actually the other way. Let's just make sure that we're checking the same side. So now just find that foot position again.
Okay.
And think about that support. And then think about that pulling up into here. Yep, there you are. Nice. So yeah, now we're really getting a much closer to plumb line happening in the whole side view. And you honestly, like almost wish we had measured your height a few weeks ago, because I think you certainly present taller.
I'll take
and
it.
you might actually measure taller at this point. You know, not that we're actually making bones grow, we're just unshrinking you.
Unfolding.
Yeah. Your homework is really to think of this support here pushing lightly into there, that's, and not quite on the ski jump. So there you are. So that the breath is here instead of here.
Okay.
And not, a lot of people talk about pulling belly button to spine, but I actually want you to think of it going up into your back, and that this tucks in a little. Yes, there we are. Nice, and there's the breath up there. And that's gonna help open this left arm too, but that's a really solid look to me.
All right.
Excellent, let's get the chairs out. So, what just happened?
Well, I was mostly just blinded by terror. No, I'm kidding. I did have a moment of actually like a physical panic sensation start. I think it was a combination of like just a gripping on my left side, which is common, with the feeling of my rib cage being compressed and not being sure I could breathe.
Right.
And also like somehow primordially feeling attacked at the same time. It was fun. But it didn't last long. And I think that you were still able to get the release that you were looking for in there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, then, you know, it was even 3 times easier to get off the table.
Nice. Okay.
Than it has been. It and then, you know, walking across the floor, sitting down, getting dressed was, you know, way easier than usual.
Nice.
Getting dressed is a challenge.
Totally. Yeah.
Bathing, getting dressed, these things are like really, I mean, and you'll read in, you know, in like MS chat groups and stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
Those are like 2 of the things that people complain about the most.
Yeah.
And getting dressed a second ago, kind of no problem.
Awesome. High fives.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Like things just feel, you know, just everything just feels more pliable and less keeping itself from doing what I want it to do.
Nice.
You know, so that's good. You were mentioning that my sitting posture looked better to you.
Yeah, when you were sitting, you're back to it now. Like you just sort of immediately sat, and you were just like this, spine straight down through the chair, and you weren't thinking about it. You had no idea it was happening, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here you are again, like finding that line more easily, and you know, it's not that you should always sit perfectly, but it's like it should be available to you to just balance in gravity without thinking too much about it.
Well, sitting can be a challenge, as you know, especially, you know, if I sit wrong, my neck hurts.
Yeah.
But then when I have been trying to then sit so that my neck doesn't hurt, all of this, you know, these muscles in here that have been bunched up, as you know, would start to complain. So it's like, which ones am I going to make happy? Right. So I have to keep changing my sitting position because nothing was working.
Yeah.
But then, like, I sit down like this, and it's like, oh, nobody's unhappy right now.
Yay!
You know, so that's great, and yeah, I think those are my takeaways so far.
Nice. I'm gonna talk a little bit to the audience. I guess we have an audience, but about that panic feeling a little bit, because it isn't abnormal, right? And so I think I mentioned it when we were working. I don't know if I got caught because we had cameras like overheating and things, so I'm not sure if this got caught on the mic earlier, but I was talking about the 5 feelings, right? And
right.
When, you know, when I talk about the emotional layering of things, I'm really trying to keep it very scientific and not some esoteric idea of of things. And it's like, there is a brain emotional connection to everything, but you can really think of it as like we physiologically respond to our feelings in different ways, right? And the 5 feelings, if you don't know, are basically mad, sad, glad, and then there's sexual arousal, which we don't really talk about in massage therapy for obvious reasons. And then terror is the 5th one, right? And what I will say is we all avoid that one at all, if at all possible. We do everything possible to. Most of us avoid most of our feelings, but if you've even got the channel of mad and sad, or some people have mad and glad, some people have sad and glad, some people have sad and mad, like some people only have one channel of those 3,
Right.
But terror, we kind of all just like work really hard to avoid it. And it actually takes a lot of muscles to avoid your feelings. That's not some esoteric magic energy thing, although that could be part of it. I'm not discounting that, but I just have no proof for that. But to just stop ourselves from crying actually takes a bunch of muscle firings to do that. And then we hold that pattern, and that ties into the posture. If we want to get angry and we don't let ourselves get angry, that also takes muscular force to stop that feeling. And the terror one is really, and so we did a lot of work on your diaphragm, especially in the back ribs back here. And I've been saying for the last couple sessions, your diaphragm won't fully let go, that wheeze that we were hearing, but especially on the right. And so when I got into the back right side, that was when we got there. And,
yes, we did.
in many ways on the table with clients, like if they're trying to avoid that feeling of a panic attack, I might ask them to like let it happen, and just be like, right? Like, because trying to hold that at bay is actually costing on a daily basis all of this extra energy and force. And I'm just like, the one thing I would say is let's do it in a controlled environment where it's not harmful to anybody or you around you, and hopefully have maybe some agency over when we get to express. But I think, without getting too magical about feelings, like the fact, if you're stuck and not expressing these things, find ways to do it constructively and on your own schedule, or potentially they pop open in some sort of a complete uncontrolled rage at some point, or not. And then you just shrink into that control for the rest of your life as well, right? Like that's also an option, is to just never feel, never express, and slowly hold all that in until you're 90 like this,
Ossified.
Yeah, and that's an option too. It has its pros and cons, right? There's a cost and a benefit, and it's all trade-offs, right? And so I'm not saying that you should just go wild and feel all your feelings like a toddler at any moment, like as I like to joke to clients, like, well, we don't want you to break out in tears in the middle of a board meeting, but we also don't want you to not have any of that available, because there is a cost. And it's not just the cost of your relationships and all the things along that. It's literally a physiological cost of, it's literally costing you a ton of energy and muscle contraction to hold that at bay. Yeah. And so I'll give you an example, story. And this is a story I share with clients to hopefully help them decide that maybe it's okay to have a cry once in a while, or get upset once in a while. For me, weirdly, after my dad passed, it was laughter that I didn't have at channel. I mean, I didn't have most of them, but I literally had to reteach myself how to laugh in my 30s and smile on camera in my 30s, right? Like, because I just wasn't comfortable feeling that feeling, because then it brought, and I mentioned him earlier, one of my life coaching mentor, Christopher McAuliffe, had this amazing Zen question he would ask every once in a while that I love to drop in the middle of sessions, which is, are you angry that you're sad, or sad that you're angry? It's a brilliant question, because it's like, well, yeah, either one, doesn't matter, you're both. But, you know, for me, it was like I wasn't happy because if I was happy, then I was sad, you know?
Right.
And if I had one feeling, I had to have them all. And so I just avoided them entirely for about 13 or 14 years until after a breakup for somebody I was seeing in Vermont, a long distance relationship, broke up there, had to drive back home. I'm doing 80 miles an hour down route, I guess it's 87, I don't remember, whatever the main road is. Yeah. And somewhere an hour later into this drive, I just had a total meltdown and I started bawling and like that kind of whole thing. But I'm also doing 80 and I actually am like, I don't think I can safely pull over.
Wow.
And so I'm just going to keep it at this speed and hold and have this thing. And it took an hour.
Wow.
Now, that was dangerous. So I had an epiphany that like maybe all that stuff is still stuck in there. And if I don't do something about it, that's going to happen to me when I don't want it to happen in the middle of a board meeting, let's say, or whatever equivalent you have for you. And so then I just took on free writing in a journal for about half an hour a day. And at first it was hard, nothing came out. And then all of a sudden the spigot opened up wide and it was like just screaming anger and crying and all this stuff. But I got it to the point where I could literally just put a timer on for half an hour, feel my feelings, close the book, and go back to everything and be fine. But the point is, have some agency over your ability to, I'm going to feel my feelings on my time, you know, when it's convenient for me. Does it make it so that you have absolute control? No, not at all. But
I think our culture does give us this idea. It's sort of accepted in the wider culture, a myth that emotions just happen and there's no controlling them.
Yeah,
we're at the mercy of our emotions, and it's really not true.
Not at all. Oh boy. All right. So we usually give homework at this stage after a session. Actually, we usually do it before this stage of just outtake, but we did a bunch of homework at the beginning. So let's try it again. Let's see how it feels now that we've done some work.
Let's see where we're at here. So, bear
so
first?
Start with the bear, why not?
Okay.
So just the... Oh, yeah, nice. And I think for you, think about letting your butt go backwards a tiny bit more. Yeah, there you go. One more. I mean, that looks way easier than it did before.
It is way easier.
All right, so let's just try the arm swings now. Okay. Oh, wow. I want you to watch a before and after picture of what your left arm is doing, or before and after video, because your left arm wasn't swinging at all before, and now it's very different. Nice. How does that feel?
A lot better.
Excellent.
I'm definitely noticing that my elbow doesn't straighten all the way with my left arm.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, it's the kind of thing where if you just accept it where it is right now and just keep doing a few reps here and there, that will change over time. And you know, you don't quite have the point where you're swinging all the way back. Right. But before it would end up here and stop, and this time you got it all the way over here and slapped, which is great.
Yep. It definitely was.
I will take that happily.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. You're the next contestant on The Elbow is Right. I can do all the greatest neck and shoulder work in the world, but if I don't get to these eventually, that tension's just going to come back. What we're going to have to do is open wide, but not as wide as possible.